We have two more speakers for you today, and I have the privilege of having coached and spent extra time with a dear friend of mine, Will Marble, who I first met at the Voyager Outward Bound School and ever since have hung on to for dear life. AEE has been a part of Will's life since 1984. He has worked teaching gymnastics in Singapore and has arrived at his current job as Health and Wellness Coordinator for the Alabama School for Fine Arts, after having worked at Southern Illinois University's Touch of Nature, Environmental Center, Ravens Way in Sitka, Alaska, the Voyager Outward Bound School, and the Georgia Institute of Technology. Will is married to Dina Marble, LPC and scuba instructor extraordinaire, and they have three beautiful daughters, now 10, 6, and 5 years of age. Please join me in welcoming Will Marble.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and genders in between and beyond. My name is William Sism Marble. I was born in 1962 and raised in a house that my parents built in 1960. The place was Columbus, Indiana. My father was from Jeffersonville, Indiana. He grew up in farm country. He had a 9-year-old sister who died from Bright's disease when he was 4 years old. He was a World War II Navy fighter pilot who saw many of his buddies die after a kamikaze hit their ship. He was also the first fighter pilot to land on Okinawa during the war. He was a stoic man who went to a treatment center in 1984 for alcoholism. That was the same month that I went to the North Carolina Outward Bound School as a semester student, during which I attended my first AEE conference. Some of you were there. Who was there? All right. Both of those were life-changing events for both of us, and that brought us closer together. In 1990, after 6 years of sobriety, I watched him take his last breath on this earth from inside that house. My mother would live for another 24 years. She grew up in Evansville, Indiana, where her father was a newspaper editor in the glory days of newspapers. Her mother struggled with tuberculosis. My mom remembers standing on the sidewalk outside the TB asylum, waving at her mother through the windows, unable to touch, hold, or hug her. At 19 years of age, my mom was riding a horse with rotten teeth. She pulled back on the reins, and the horse reared up, fell over, landing on her, breaking her pelvis. She spent 3 months in the hospital in the early 1940s. In the early 1950s, with 1-year-old twin daughters, my mother got news that her parents had been killed in a car accident. I would never know them. My sister Sally would never know them. My mom gave me a mug once that said, "Follow your heart wherever it takes you." This child of the Great Depression wanted me to live my dreams. From 2 years prior to my birth until 2014, this house was home, and the windows that I looked through became a significant part of my narrative. My early childhood held everything wonderful one could imagine. Thanksgivings at my grandparents' farm, Christmases with more than enough, sleepovers with friends complete with streaking, the 1970s, right? Shooting guns, playing with my friends in the river behind my house, riding bikes everywhere, front yard football, the snow cone lady driving by on a hot summer afternoon. We even had a pool in our backyard. As time went on, things got more complicated. My oldest sisters were experiencing the late 60s and early 70s as late teens, while I was pretending to be Neil Armstrong. There was tension in the air, but always reconciliation. By my late teens, I began to drink and smoke weed, and my father's alcoholism began to take hold and be more evident. Mom was the rock, always a staunch believer in me, in spite of my behaviors. Denial ran thick in our house. That is, until I began to find lime vodka bottles in the trunk of my dad's car, right next to where I hid my bong. I remember helping my father up the stairs one night, grabbing him around the waist and feeling a bottle tucked in his waistline. I remember seeing him fall into our pool. I remember standing dumbfounded in the driveway while he was clearly intoxicated, getting in his car to go out. There are many stories like that, probably all too familiar to many of us. I told you I watched him take his last breath. It was after a 6-month battle with esophageal cancer. It was also after 6 years of his sobriety and of my early relationship with AEE, the Association for Experiential Education. My mother stayed strong as the difficulty of life eased up. Things began to be more fluid and relaxing. I then began to understand how my life looking out these windows only showed me so much. You see, there were walls around those windows as well that occluded my vision from much. My privilege allowed me to be someone I'm not so proud of. As a teen and young man in my early 20s, I spoke of women and girls as things, not people. I was quick to make a funny pun about someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. I was happy to tell a joke centering on the color of someone's skin, without a thought to who heard, how that must have felt, or how racist I was. You see, these walls hold wonderful memories, but they only also showed me so much. I had to go beyond those walls. So I followed the advice of the mug that my mother gave me, and I followed my heart to where it took me. And I'm thankful that this led me to AEE. AEE, you helped me grow to know this world so much better and nurtured me along the way to be a better educator, a better friend, a better ally, a better husband, a better father, a better me. After being a student at Outward Bound in my first AEE conference, I followed my heart to many places. While at Georgia Tech, I followed my heart to yet another AEE conference in Vancouver, British Columbia, where at midnight in the lobby of the hotel, I walked over and I met a woman and fell deeply in love, and we've been married ever since. Well, we didn't get married at the conference, but it was shortly thereafter, and we have 3 beautiful daughters. I'm living the dream. Now, perhaps this could be a great ending to the story. AEE is good. Follow your heart wherever it takes you, and people change for the better sometimes. But there's a deeper calling in my experience worth reflecting on. You see, my mother, as strong as she was at the age of 87 in 2014, had oral surgery. Her nutrition tanked. She had to recalibrate her medications. She felt different and went quickly into a state of depression. She sought help. She was prescribed an antidepressant. Shortly after that, she walked into the beautiful backyard full of decades of memories. She took out a .22 caliber pistol and shot herself while my sister was inside. The bullet severed her left subclavial artery, and she died on the spot. It made no sense. It made perfect sense. It continues to befuddle me. In the aftermath of my mom's death, I've been lifted up by family, by friends, by coworkers, and by you, by AEE. You have reminded me of my mother's message to follow my heart wherever it takes me. Now, let's be real. I was set up in life to be able to follow my heart. In spite of some trials and tribulations and certainly some character defects, the road has been well paved for me my entire life. This is not the case for many of our students, our clients, our colleagues, and for many of you perhaps. I believe that if we can pave the way for one another so that more people in this world can follow their hearts, we will have served well. It won't be easy. There will be heartache along the way. But you are the windows that can allow others to see where their hearts want to go. Let's go together, wherever it takes us. Peace be with you. I love you. Thank you.